So as part of Black History Month, we are on day 6, and today we are doing our first live interview. And I have the great privilege and honor of getting to hang out with my friend, Kevin Laylor, who is currently located in Maryland. He is a high performance business coach for life coaches. He's a visionary, a father, and he is the Life Coach CEO, which, well, he's a regular CEO. CEO stands for something a little bit different in this particular situation. Kevin, tell us more.
Yeah, so thank you for having me on here. And as mentioned here, I am a high performance business coach for life coaches. And the CEO stands for Creative Experience Officer, because in short, my thing is that there is a lot of pain in this world, and that the reason why anyone is chosen to be a life coach is because they're meant to create an experience for other people to bring them out of that pain and into alignment to what they want to do. And I would love for anyone who is a life coach, you have an experience that you are looking to bring out though. So if you're ever in need of kind of bringing your mission and your business out to the forefront to make that impact and show people what you can do with your coaching skills, by all means, come down and see me on my Facebook page. But yes, Life Coach CEO is all about bringing together life coaches who know they have a creative experience to offer other people out in the world so we all can impact the amount of pain we know is out there.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for providing that service to life coaches out there, because it is needed. I mean, there's so much to navigate through the business aspect of things. What is your specific skill set that you bring forward to help people in that business realm?
Yeah, so two things that come to my mind right now in terms of how I help life coaches is one, I have always been a fan of group experiences ever since I was a kid. My mom and dad instilled it in me in terms of like Christmas time. Like I always knew that my place was the place to be. And my mom would I'd be excited working with my mom and dad, food, decorations, and driveway packed with cars. It was always about the transformation experience, seeing people light up because of what was created. So that's always been instilled in me though. So I help people create a similar feeling. What is the group experience that you can bring to people with your coaching that creates a similar transformation effect? And the second piece of that is one, understanding that you're a powerful coach and how you can facilitate group experiences, and what is the systems that you can create in your business so that you focus less on your systems and more on your coaching. As someone who's been in corporate for over a decade, business systems analyst, I can definitely help people see the logical steps of what you should do first and stay away from in terms of navigating what should I do to build my business, because that can be overwhelming. It's very easy to get caught up in the online space and kind of spend thousands.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And realize like I should have done it a different way. And my direction is like, let's figure out what your experience is you want to create. Then we figure out the tools though. So I'm here to help people figure out like, should I have a website or not? No, should I do this or not? Like, yeah, like what does that look like so that your investment feels efficient and your coaching becomes effective in terms of reaching the clients you want to reach.
Oh, that's fantastic. And we'll definitely make sure to put like links to your website and all those different things in the comments afterwards. And if anybody has any sort of questions, feel free to put them in the chat if you randomly run across us in this spontaneous interview that we're doing right now. And so I love being able to highlight really heart-centered people with integrity all over the world, regardless of gender or color. But let's come just down to personal stuff for a moment. In regards to obstacles that you may have run across and perspectives of also what is speaking to your heart.
You know, one of the things that's coming to mind right now, though, is what does it mean to kind of not just be a Black man today in 2022, but just a man in this space that we are in where we can hear so many opinions and voices of people, especially in the realm of, what a man should be, what a woman should be, how people should act in relationships, how people should see different things. Um, and I would say that one of the things I'm doing better with, though, but I know for one thing, for example, it becomes very easy to generalize things. And I'll give an example of what that looks like. Um, in terms of like, for example, like the George Floyd thing, that kicked off a lot of like just topics and conversations and anger and sadness, and I know for me, in terms of just seeing things online over and over and over, I caught myself generalizing too, in terms of like, well, if cops would do that, what could happen to me? And it went to the next step. Well, if a white person could do that, what would happen to me? And the next step would be, it's like, well, I'm surrounded by like white folks. Can I even trust the white folks that I am around? And this generalization I kind of caught, and I realized I don't want to become a person who thinks this way, in terms of like, white people are this, where it started as like a white cop did this, then a white man did this, then a white person did this, then white people do this. Like, it's a very dangerous, yet it's so much noise out there that it becomes easier and easier to rationalize generalizations. So I find myself sometimes like struggling, with like, if anyone says something is racist, or something like blaming a man being this way, or a woman, though. So as a Black man these days, and trying to kind of be like, be very, have critical thinking and distinctions of things, it's not an easy thing to do. It's very easy to be like, I'm a Black man, I'm like being a victim to things, versus I could sit here and say like, take the time to be curious about that, though. But it can be very easy to fall back into generalization, though. So to me, that's a back and forth in my mind. I don't know about anyone else, though, but hopefully, in terms of even just sharing that, kind of like someone be like, you know what, I am in those places too sometimes. I don't want to generalize, but sometimes with the amount of commentary on social media, it can be very easy to fall into that generalization and kind of realize that's not who you want to be.
Yeah. I really appreciate your vulnerability in sharing something so raw in regards to all of that. And as a white person, is there anything that you feel like we could do in conversation to help to be more supportive and just generally aware and mindful in relation?
I mean, the only thing that comes to mind here is it's vulnerability. It really is a place of vulnerability, of owning what you're feeling and not feeling shame. And I realize that's probably a tough thing to do, because we're all being taught right now online to kind of be this highlight reel of
Right.
sense, that nothing's going on, that we have it all together. uh we might see a few posts of people being vulnerable, but that's a minority, a very small minority, versus like the highlight reels, the filtered life that we see, though. So um it's really just expressing how you really feel. It's like, you know what, I don't know if I'm saying the right things. I don't know how I'm feeling, but this is what I'm feeling. I would love like direction. That's just the first piece of it. Awareness of what you are feeling and being able to speak it, uh, just to kind of request perspective, to me is probably the biggest piece, though, because the more aware you are, the more options you will have to feel differently, make different choices, feel better, have the conversations. As long as you're not vulnerable about what you're feeling and what you need, then it just becomes something that comes through us unconsciously, in terms of like, you know what, I'm not going to deal with this right now. But you might not even realize that you might be coming from a place of microaggressions or things of that nature, because it has not been discussed, though. So if I was going to recommend one thing, it's just acknowledging that you do feel something and you don't know what to do with it, but you're curious of spaces to have that conversation. That'd be the first step.
I really appreciate you sharing all of that with me and with our viewers. And I'm wondering if there's in lane within that there's so much just general humanness of what people struggle with and what you're asking, regardless of gender or color. Like, how do we create safety for one another to have vulnerable and sometimes awkward conversations, right?
Yeah, safety is a very two-pronged approach, because it's one thing to offer, like I can say, like, if anyone wants to come talk with me, I'm a very safe person. But if you don't know me, you might not know that. Even if you did know me, you still might not take this step, though. So it's two pieces. It's always, no matter how thin you slice it, there's always two sides to the equation of things. So
At least.
the two pieces of that side, no matter how thin you slice that, is one, those who offer that space, offer that door to walk through. And the other side of it is the courage to walk through that door. Because we can sit here and offer safety all day long, but if someone doesn't have the courage to take the step through that door, then nothing's going to be done. Or flip side, if someone has the courage to walk through the door, but does not know where the door is to walk through. And again, though, so it's a two-sided approach here in terms of offering safety, in terms of be loud, unapologetic that you want to offer a safe space. And then for the other person, admit that you are just curious. You're not weak. There's nothing wrong with you. You want to grow out of behaviors that you didn't maybe realize you had, or maybe are aware of them. And it comes from a place of courage, whatever that looks like, to be like, I'm curious to go down that path. And I understand it doesn't make me weak. Rather, it makes me a better human being in terms of what I get to do, the relationships I get to build, the ripple effect, and things of that nature. And none of this it sounds easy to say it, but at the end of the day, no matter what, like, we can all get in our own ways, though. But to me, that's the piece right there. Safety comes from two things: the people who offer it, and the courage people choose to have to go through that door and receive it.
Thank you so much for offering all of that. I really do appreciate it. And there's two things that I would like to add to that as well, is assuming positive intent from the person who is offering and the person who is explaining their situation, for one. And then also what safety looks like for you, like the general you, might not be the same thing as what safety looks like for the person in front of you that you are offering with positive intent. And being able to keep an open mind and open heart to the communication from that person that says, I don't actually feel safe when you provide that space for me in that way. And advocating and enlightening that person to say, if you indeed want me to feel safe, this is what safety looks like for me. And are you in a space to expand yourself to be able to hold that space in the way that I need you to, and the way your intention is aligning with?
Yeah, there's a saying that comes to mind, one of my favorites, that comes from the late Stephen Covey. Seek to understand before being understood.
Yes, absolutely. Chills through my whole body. I'm like, yes, that.
if someone were to ask me what's the number one skill of a coach, the number one skill, I'll even say, go beyond that, the number one skill of a human being is the ability to listen. It's the ability to listen, though. So what does safety look like for me? The fact that I can speak, that you can listen, and that you can probably repeat back and make me feel seen and understood, and actually hold back on any responses until, like, you've created a sense of, are you complete? Would you like to hear more? Though, so listening and questioning skills, to me, anyone who can create a space of listening and questioning and then offering at the appropriate time, to me, that is safe, though, because it's not about them being heard. It's about them knowing it's just like, I'm here for the conversation. I'm here to hear what you have to say. I'm here to repeat back, like, is this what I heard? And then opening the door to be like, once I have let that out, to hear. And I've been in spaces like this where coaches who can hold such a space, and it is extremely powerful, transformational. I've seen people break down knowing that like they finally feel heard and seen. So to me personally, and I think it's just a general rule that maybe people are aware of or even unaware of, listening and just repeating back what they think they heard to create a sense of understanding. And again, by Stephen Covey, seek to understand before being understood. Has been one of my favorites of uh, uh, elements that he's put out there. And I think it's a powerful tool for a coach. And I think it is the ultimate tool for any human being in terms of being able to listen and know that it's like, who comes to mind? The four agreements, that
Yes.
that you can listen and not take things personal. Easier said than done, but that ability is, I think that ability to listen and not take things personal combination, I think so much would change. So much would change. But personally, to me, that's safety.
Thank you so much for sharing all that. And I could not possibly agree with you more on so many different levels. My friend Elysia popped in and she said, that's a great point. The feeling of safety is an essential Maslow hierarchy of needs that must be established. No safety, the brain will not relax from hypervigilance. Thus, our communication skills will be delayed and we would be too busy watching and guarding. Thank you so much, Elysia, for that excellent addition to the conversation.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. And I think there is what's the word I'm looking for here? Underestimating safety in all of us, men and women, though. Like, and again, I recently saw Tony Robbins ask this question. I caught this recently on something that he did, a live challenge that he did. And he asked the men in the room, how many of you here, feel safe, like, or fear for your safety? Like, only a few men put their hands up there, and asked the women, and a lot of women. And it's a natural state to show that women have a sense of like safety, like looking out after their safety, and men not really. But I really wonder though, like, was that a space for men to express like, what does safety really look like? You say you're safe though, but is there anything brewing underneath? And when I go online and I listen to videos, even for myself, I feel like sometimes I just want to go outside and scream. And at the same time, I wonder, will anyone hear it?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, because I'm a man, I'll probably say that I'm safe, even though inside it's just like, I don't know what's going on, or not sure how to deal with things here though. So it's a very interesting dynamics of safety in terms of women will admit though, sometimes, like most times, it's like, well, I'm always in fear of like something happening. I'm on guard and making sure. Men, they're not though, but men, I think, need to acknowledge that emotional safety should not be overlooked and taken a look into further in terms of just healthy expression of emotion. Because I think we're so one-minded in terms of like what needs to get done. That's why we're called fixers, right? It's like we try to fix things because we want to.
How can we solve this problem? It needs to be solved right now.
Fix it up. And emotions, like women love to like figure things out from a verbal standpoint. They want to talk it through, which means they're going to go. There's an emotional wave with that conversation. And for some men, sometimes it's like to go on that ride, there's a disturbance. They don't know what to do with that. They need to step away from that though. So, and may not even know what to do with that though. So there's a conversation probably available in terms of emotional safety for men to understand themselves so that they are more better equipped to handle conversations, their emotional needs, and rely less on anything of aggression that's unnecessary unless called for in the appropriate situation, like if someone's attacking you or something like that, though. But otherwise, if no one's attacking you, what does emotional safety look like for men? So that probably was a tangent right there with safety.
No,
but
it's so good. I really appreciate you bringing that forward. And, there's so many things I'd like to bring up in regards to that, and just
Mhm.
having a question for men in regards to safety, because I've talked to many men over the course of the last 2 years doing the global men's summits that I created and whatnot. And something that I continue to hear from men across the globe was really of like feeling unsafe to be able to approach a woman. Like, what do I say? What do I do? What are the new rules since the Me Too movement? And the Me Too movement was incredibly important, but how do we create that space of safety for men? So because they're just like, what I continually hear from men is just like, I feel damned if I do and damned if I don't. And I don't have any space of guidance from men or for women as to how to healthily navigate through that space with safety, and without being rejected, without being judged, without being told that I'm a pussy, without being shamed. And so there's so many different layers to that. And how can men be both dangerous and soft, right? Because, like, for instance, a man who goes into the military is trained to be dangerous, right? That's his job. And then he comes home from being in the military, and that knowledge is not going to leave his mind or his body.
No.
But coming back and reintegrating into society and learning how to be safe, not that they're not safe, right? It's not about them, but creating that frame of how people are receiving them and being able to hold a space of being able to be both dangerous and safe at the same time.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought process here, though, that for as connected as we are online and what was the intent, it almost feels like we're shrinking in circles because of just so many opinions and not knowing what to do with it. So we have to have less of a circle to feel understood. So even a guy who is trained to be dangerous to protect our country, but then reintegrated into civilian lifestyle and to balance between the two, but then be met with noise of like, you're dangerous or you're not, like, not being understood. Like, I feel like you need to have less people around you versus being connected to more people. And that can feel counterintuitive in terms of like, we want to connect with the tribe of people, but now I have to shrink who I'm around because if I'm around too many people, I'm around too many people who will probably misunderstand me. And if I'm constantly being misunderstood, I don't feel safe being me. So it's funny, online meant to connect us, bring us together. But what I am seeing, though, is, again, are we really connecting with the real versions of ourselves? For a military guy, are we allowing him to be the guy who protected our country and have his journey of figuring out what civilian life looked like without judgment? Probably not. And for so many different scenarios, for transgender, for being a Black man today, for relationships, can a man navigate talking to a woman without fear? If a man has a genuine interest, but a woman trumps his positive intent with her past experiences in terms of like assumptions of motives. The last three guys do this. What makes you different? And it's just like, so there's so many things that we navigate today online in terms of experiences, thoughts, and it's hard to leave the past in the past, let the moment be brand new, to get to know one another, though. So I wonder, like, how much we're truly connecting these days, knowing that we have our past experiences, a lot of commentary online, and are we really communicating in a way to feel understood, as a military guy, as a Black guy, as, people are gay, or whatever the situation may be? Are we really talking to each other from a place of understanding one another?
Yeah, because like so much, those are so many good points. And there's a lot of, I'm like, oh my gosh, so many places to go to. The one thing I wanted to bring up too was not just military men from the standpoint of being dangerous, but also guys in the NFL, for instance. Like, you're on the line And your job is to like push up against these people. And that's all you train over, and you have your coaches that are really pushing. There was a great article in Men's Health recently about a former NFL player who has started doing life coaching for specifically men from the NFL. And I forget the name of them. I wrote it down somewhere, but if anybody wanted to look up Men's Health, I think it was one of the last, like maybe 2 to 3 issues. And the guy, I read the article, and that's what some of the guys were talking about, is like this rage that like you get done with being an NFL player and now you have nowhere to channel that. And then it just kind of spills out into the rest of like your family, your job, your community. And it's like, how are you coming to yourself and channeling the energy in a healthy way? And there's a lot to that. And also dealing with head injuries, and like in any gender, but especially I feel like men, and you're supposed to be in this one space, and then you have a head injury, you have to, or any other physical injury, you have to reevaluate how you operate in the world, and all these expectations of how like men are supposed to be, right? And there's just so many stereotypes across the board for people to run across. And how is it that we as human beings deal with ego and expectation? The expectations that we lay upon ourselves, as well as the expectations we lay on others as individuals, and the expectations we lay upon a group of people. And how do we create a space to let go of expectations, let go of ego, and actually see the person in present time in front of us with compassion and respect to the to the degree of which we can muster, and grace, and that mutual curiosity to say like, I see you, I hear you. What can we do to make each other feel safe, heard, respected, and either have the boundaries to walk away from one another, or the boundaries to shift a conversation into a more functional route, or to be able to say, hey, wow, I think you're amazing, and to accept that praise and be like, hey, cool, do you want to be friends? Without ideas of motives. Like, somebody doesn't have to want something from you to connect with you as a human being. Like, so often I think people like, you try to talk to somebody, they're like, what do you want? Like, that's weird. Why are you talking to me? And instead, we talked about this before, it's like coaches, right? You're like so focused on this. It's just like to connect with somebody outside of the coaching realm, or to be able to bounce ideas off of, and not have to have a scarcity mindset and be like, oh, are they going to steal my ideas? Right? Or do they want something from me? Or how is it going to, like, does it need to be beneficial in a financial way for us to be able to just like chat as people? It's an interesting realm to get to be in.
Yeah, and you mentioned something here, and I think the road to compassion. The road to compassion is paved through overcoming our own pain. And I really believe that. Like, the more I sit with myself, the more I deal with myself, the more that I get over beating myself up for not being aware, the easier it becomes for me to kind of think like, what could someone else be going through for me to respond to people versus react, though, because again, it's just like, I don't know what someone's going through. And I think I saw this video. There was this video that put together one clip, and it looked like something happened, but then it showed 4 additional angles, and you realize the entire thing was different. It's a different story versus seeing things from one side versus 4 sides. And again, I think the more that we explore the various pieces of our stories inside and deconstruct them, the easier it is to look at other people and wonder, like, what's going on for them, what experience have they gone through, because we've overcome our own experience to come to this place, though. So we all deal with enough mental chatter on our own. I do my best. I'm not perfect.
What? You were not? Oh, I don't think we can talk anymore. No.
I mean, I do my best to kind of stay out of like the mental chatter of like a tear down. Like, I'll get caught up in my own waves, though, but it's just like, social media these days, and detachment. Again, all of this to come to a place of the road to compassion is through overcoming our own pain. The more we understand what it means to overcome our own pains, the more we want to hear people, listen to people, be a space for people, because we know what it takes I know what it takes to come to this place of like calm and peace and personal power. And I don't want to add to anyone's plate for what they may not be saying of what's going on. Even for the recent death of the former Miss USA, 30 years old,
Yeah,
committing suicide.
very sad.
And it makes me wonder what was going on so much that that was the final answer versus who could be talked to, who could support her, what access was available to her, or did she even understand her for herself though, in terms of like what can this look like, or was she being held to a standard like everyone around her, like, look, you're Miss Former USA? Was she being told to be something that she no longer wanted to be, and she held that standard? Overcoming so much of our labels, who we supposed to be, uh just creates so much space for compassion to support other people though. But to me, that's the thing. Again, we come back to this, the number one skill of a human being, listening. To be able to listen and make people feel safe, I feel like that offers so much to kind of get out of these boxes, be ourselves, and figure out what fulfilling life can look like outside of the box.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. It's incredibly important. And um, it also makes me think about a conversation that we had a little bit earlier in regards to kind of the social standards of who we're attracted to in dating and how things are held in different generational spots, being like 40s, 50s, 20s, 30s, like all those different things and stereotypes that are thrown in that regard.
Yeah. Stereotypes, 30s, 20s.
Especially for men and like how they might be putting things out there.
I mean, I would like to go out in this, to go out into the space these days. I wouldn't again. I wouldn't even understand, know what to navigate though, because there's just so many ways of thinking. To me, again, positive intent. Like you just want to have a conversation, without any thinking of motive or anything like that though. But the stereotypes of what some guys do versus what some women do though, versus what folks who are older, like there's just so much. I thought about this recently. There's so many rules, it feels like.
Oh my gosh, so many rules. And it's just like, oh, you're crazy if you do X, or you need to look like Y, or like, I only want to approach you on this superficial level. And I think it definitely winds into a bit of safety, because if people don't know how to make things safe for themselves and they're struggling with that whole compassion piece and personal accountability, then any person you get in a relationship with, you're going to struggle with. It doesn't matter what they look like, what their age is, any piece of it, right?
Yeah. Yes. So
And what are you attracted to? Are you attracted to the depth, or you just want to be like, that person has a rocking body and I am all about that?
yeah, like those pieces here though, in terms of like how people are putting themselves out there though. For example, again, I think we've all had our day and age and everything in terms of how we put ourselves out there, how women put themselves out there, how men put themselves out there, the conversations that we're having at a particular level. The woman's putting themselves out there from a physical standpoint, and the men is only choosing to interact at that level versus, again, I probably is the oddball. Like I remember back in the day going to a festival, went out with some of the guys, went to a strip club. I'm not really into strip clubs though, because I don't get to have a conversation. Like I enjoy the conversation. I don't appreciate like another woman's body as much as other men do, unless like she's with me though. There's a deeper appreciation there though. But paying for the look, it's just not enough, because it's like you're not someone I get to go further with beyond a transaction. You're not someone I get to have a conversation with though. So to me, I remember just sitting in a restaurant. One of the girls from across the street, they came across, they started talking to me. What's your name? But she was just trying to get a transaction going, though. So, I mean, I don't know what's missing in terms of that communication, though, in terms of like, you know what, I can look this way, but I want the communication as well. Or a guy thinking like, you know what, I'm going to come from a place of like trying to like talk to you and figure this out. Again, like I'm gonna ask you questions, listen to understand you, or something like that, versus like, you're just showing me this, I'm just trying to get this, and we're just going to keep it that dynamic though, versus elevate that. And sometimes we just wait too long in terms of like, oh, I wish I would have known better in my 20s or in my 30s. Now I know better in my 40s and my 50s. And I guess again, we're all meant to just walk our path though, but right now that seems to always be available. And the lesson I pull from that is listen to what the older people have to say. That has been my biggest lesson. Someone in their 60s and 70s, I listen extremely intently to what they have to say, because if you told me like, Kevin, stop acting like a guy's guy in my 20s, I probably wouldn't listen, because I just want to be what I want to be though. So to do better, that's like, all right, if someone in their 60s and 70s are telling me something, they probably went through something that I haven't gone through yet. So I listen very intently and be like, what probably happened to create that experience, so I can capture that now versus wait, like, oh, I wish I would have, you hear that term? I wish I would have known that back then. I'm trying to learn that now by listening. Again, listening.
Oh my gosh, there's so many people I wish I would have listened to when I was younger, and I just was not, like, they told me the things and I just was not, like, I thought I was listening. I don't know if that ever happens to anybody out there. You think you're listening, but you're not actually listening because you're too stuck in your ego and expectations and your own story and like whatever. Like, we're human. It happens. Don't judge yourself too harshly. Just try and take a step back to be like observe and like elevate yourself at some point. And building habit life takes time. You know, when you learn something new, like, it takes time to like build that habit and get really good at it and be in that new mind space, you know, like headspace of evolution. And yeah, having grace with yourself as well as others is incredibly important in the journey of life.
Yeah. And all of this, I for anyone, you know, to me, personal development is just, it should be in everyone's life on a daily basis, though. Growth mindset, things of that nature. It really, anything that helps you to think better, be less reactive, have new perspective, to not be drained by being in an emotional place longer than you need to be. That, I think that all comes from personal development, whether that's books, mentors, coaches, something of that nature. You know, if personal development is not a part of your daily lifestyle, today should be that day for anyone, whatever that looks like, because I don't even want to think what life would look like without personal development.
Oh my gosh.
Without like these tools. Like, I don't know what type of trouble I probably would have gotten. I don't know what I probably would have breaking out of, like, uncontrolled anger. So anyone like who thinks about mindset or anything like that, like whatever it looks like for you, personal blueprints. If you're not into personal development, today, great day. Ask questions if necessary. What can that look like? Because it can look like, it can be different for everyone, but it is beneficial. It's like, there is no drawback. The one drawback is you might lose people that you've been holding on to for too long, because now you know better with what you deserve.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for all of that, Kevin. I really appreciate it. I have just 2 more questions left.
Yep.
Before we wrap up on this delicious conversation today. And so I love it. I love it all. So my one question is, you've mentioned a couple times like anger that you've experienced and not necessarily feeling like if anybody's going to hear you, and also that you've transcended some of those spaces. What is some advice that you could give men when they're in regards to them experiencing anger and functionally being able to honor that and move it into a better place?
Yeah, so for a man who is probably in a place of anger, and I guess we'll just start with, if it's just them, it really is about slowing down. It really is. I mean, you can go 2 choices. You can go out, you can get a punching bag or something to kind of let energy out, punching bag, exercise and everything. Do not doubt the power of exercise, especially in an anger state, in terms of like releasing some of that energy though. However, I will say the best thing to kind of learn because it can be done anywhere at any time, is the ability to slow down and kind of be okay with that discomfort though. So that can feel counterintuitive. Like when you're angry, you just want to blow up.
Sure.
And to slow yourself down. So it's like you're trying to calm a speeding train, and that can feel heavy in terms of trying to slow it down. If anyone remembers the scene from Spider-Man and him trying to slow down the train and how much that takes out of him, that practice becomes better. That's another muscle to build, especially with anger, because to spill that anger out in ways that you might regret later makes it worth it to learn that skill now, in terms of slowing down, whether that's listening to music that you enjoy, watching a movie that you can get lost into, that allows you to like refocus and allow yourself to calm down and think about this another time without exploding onto other people and wishing you took that back. So that is one thing on your own, either exercise or practice the ability to slow down. And then the second piece is, again, remove the shame in talking to someone else about it. Again, I'd rather talk to somebody else than know that I hurt somebody else because of anger. Like, to me, it's just like, which one do you want to deal with? Do you want to deal with what it feels like to have a conversation about being angry, as if you're not human?
Yeah.
Or do you want to deal with the conversation of the pain you caused because you were in pain? As they say, hurt people hurt people.
So true.
So whatever that looks like for anybody, again, we come back to personal development being a benefit. Find ways to slow down, music, exercise, movie, whatever that might look like, or remove the stigma of talking to somebody so that you don't deal with any consequences of what your anger creates onto other people, and not hurting anyone in the process of dealing with your anger.
Yeah. Wise words, my friend. Wise words. And so my last question for you is, who inspires you in the world today? Alive or dead? I know we just lost a great.
Who inspires me in the world today? You know, this question is interesting. I'm going to say myself.
I love that. I want to. Yes.
So I like, so many people have inspired me, and the reason why I'm going to choose myself is because they're inspiring something within me. And I haven't been taking enough look at that though, in terms of like, oh, they inspired me though. So I have plenty. There's always going to be a mentor, but it's just like, they're not going to save me though, in terms of what I need to do. I need to activate what they inspire within me. So I need to see that what they're really inspiring is what's within me, if that makes sense.
It does.
So and the thing is, just like, there used to be a concern of like saying that because it sounds cocky or whatever the term, I can't remember the term right now though, but really I need to be inspired, because if I'm not tooting my own horn, who's going to hear the music that I want to play? So I actually need to take the energy of like all the people who have inspired me to now know that I am an inspiration in my own right to inspire other people.
Boom. Yes.
And go from there. And the thing is, as easy as it sounds to say that, it's work. It's even work right there to even own that, like, I inspire me, and to kind of be like, the mind's like, really? Do you? Like, the mind wants to like kind of bring you like, no. We're like, no. We live down here. Like, where you going? I'm like, I'm trying to get to appreciating me, while I have my time on this earth, on this plane though. So the more I get to appreciate me, the more I get to bring more of that appreciation to others. And to me, that is the true honoring. When you appreciate yourself to such a level that you impact others, that is actually the honoring of those who have inspired you.
That's fantastic. I love that. I was just thinking about the whole phrase, like, be the change you want to see in the world, but instead, like, be the inspiration you want to see in the world.
Yes. Yes.
Because then you can help
Exactly.
inspire others to be the change
Yes. So
as well as being the change.
I think
Yeah.
that should be the answer for anyone in terms of say it with humility, say it with pride, you
Heck
know,
yeah.
and just know, like, own the shoulders of giants who have inspired you to be who you are today, and be a part of that collective, and say your inspiration is you moving forward. That is truly the honoring of everything. That is the collection of honoring everyone. There is no singling out. I can't like say like Barack Obama, for example, like he's an inspiration. Everyone, I can't remember all their names, Maya Angelou and stuff like that. By choosing me, I honor all.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it so much. And so, yeah, that energy, that's the reason I ask this question last, always, of all my interviews, because I just love to keep people in that space. And so, Kevin, thank you so much for owning that humbly, beautifully,
Thank you.
inspirationally. You are
Much
so very
appreciated.
welcome. Yeah,
Yep.
it was really fun getting to have you on the show today.
Hmm.
And yeah, and for being the inspiration that you are in the world and helping others. I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate this conversation. Thank you for having me on and allowing us to jam. And hopefully, we impacted minimum one or more other people
We did.
with this conversation, with some level of gem knowledge, perspective, that someone gets to walk away with like, I like that. Let me try that out and see what happens for me. So thank you.
You're very welcome. It was my privilege. So, everyone out there, I hope that you've enjoyed watching the show today. And if you catch us later, please put hashtag replay and feel free to share it out into the world so we can continue to impact other people. And if you're interested in being on the show or receiving coaching from Kevin, we'll have comments in there. You can contact him for business coaching for life coaches, or you can contact me for empowerment and confidence coaching with or without horses, or to be on the show. So until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.